Welcome to Midlife Butterfly, where transformation gets real through every twist and turn of your journey. When you are empowered and fully love yourself, you'll embrace the messy, magical process of transformation with open arms. I am Ken as you, and this is your space to feel seen, heard, and inspired by real talk. So you don't just create a life you love, you live it every single day with unapologetic joy and freedom. Welcome everyone. In this episode, I'm sharing an interview with a dear soul sister of mine, Dr. Rhonda Rabbitt. She's a pure light and joy. And I have had the privilege to witness some of her journey. And because I know she embodies what she teaches, that's what she's here to talk about: the power of pleasure and how we can reclaim our sensuality in midlife. This is going to be a juicy talk. So be present, be here, because this is going to be fun. And to talk about Mr. Rhonda Rabbitt, Mrs. Dr. Rhonda Rabbitt, she creates a safe space to explore and develop wholeness. She is an executive coach, facilitator, speaker, and healer. Her primary modalities are sound, energy, qigong, and facial maneuvers. She helps groups and individuals become authentically present and experience deeper connections within themselves and with others. She is an incredible human being with an endless list of studies and credentials. And I'll mention these ones, which are more relevant to her coaching and mentorship that she offers at this time in life. So she is a certified temple body artist, and that's how we actually met, through the temple body arts school with Sophia Tom. And that's how we became sisters. And she's also a human garage lifestyle artist, a certified guided energy medicine, a shamanic sound healer, erotic blueprint coach, accelerated evolution, and qigong instructor. And I want to highlight this piece from her website. She said, "I found that it's more than the credentials that matter. True experience comes from the self-led journey into the unknown, the discomfort, the shadow experience, the surrender, the mastery, and the awakened bliss." Thank you, Rhonda, for being here. It's such a pleasure already.
Thank you. I'm so humbled by your original words of introduction. Oh, so wonderful to be in the same space with you again, even if just virtually.
Thank
so
you.
honored.
Oh,
so honored.
Thank you. It's a pleasure having you here.
And I'm trying hard not to sing. I feel like all this fluttering inside my heart and my throat. I just feel so joyful at the reunion and everything that we're about to talk about.
Oh, let it flow. We are here just to, to let it flow and speak our truth and be vulnerable if we need to be whatever we want to be, as our soul speaks out. And so let's start with actually the word pleasure, because it has quite a connotation. And I remember, at one point we actually talk about this word and how we relate to it, because really, like, pleasure is just being happy, having a happy satisfaction or enjoyment, right? But the connotation that I was having for it was only related to sex.
Oh, thank you. I remember that conversation.
Yeah. Yes. And the thing is, since sex is really a taboo, then it's when it'll get twisted, right? So it's really like, so what's your connotation of pleasure now and what it was before?
Oh, yeah. Well, if we go way back, to me, pleasure was more like a sweet treat. It was like just something that was so superficial. It was so external and it was so fleeting. And now when I think of pleasure, it's like, where is there not pleasure?
Yes.
Right? So it's
I
all in, again, it's the way you live your life versus a fleeting moment. So here, and I'm gonna, since you talked about Sophia Tom and Temple Body Artistry, and one of the first things that I remember from her that stuck with me is this nice chalice that I have in front of me. You can't see it if you're listening to audio, but my water is liquid love. This water is everything to me. And so I take it in reverence. And when I drink it, I feel pleasure of it going into my mouth, down my throat, that liquid love working its magic through me. That to me is a moment of pleasure. And how many people miss that as they chug their gallons of water?
I'm guilty of that. Not all of the time, but yeah.
Well, there are those times when you're really thirsty and you do need a good chug, but yeah.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah. That's the thing, because that's something that I have experienced in the past years. And that's seeing pleasure from another perspective only than sex, like I used to see it and to perceive it. And we can really find pleasure in most of the things that we do. If we are really present, we can find that pleasure. And it's as simple as having this conversation with you. It gives me pleasure.
I love that. So what you're talking about is the presence is the key factor there. If you're present, well, what does that mean? People say, well, I'm present. But to me, that presence is like going inside yourself. Like, and that's where like I can get all tingly on the inside just by tuning into being present. And that's even pleasurable. Like, okay, now we're just talking and it's innocent pleasure, but it could easily go into that sensual, sexual pleasure if we allow it to.
Yes, definitely.
But we don't want to go there already. Well, let's keep the foreplay going a little bit longer.
Love it. So talking about sensuality and sexuality, what's the difference?
See, and I had another point that I wanted to make on pleasure, but I will go here and come back to it. Okay, so this is just Rhonda Rabbitt speaking. And we are all sexual human beings. As humans, we are sexual beings. That's a fact. So my sexuality, to me, is more of that factual part of my humanness.
Okay.
My sensuality, that is more of my, I will go back to the erotic blueprints now, because they have 5 different blueprint types of how humans can be wired sexually. So as a sexual human being, my sexuality might be geared toward sensuality as my primary blueprint, or it might be energetic, it might be kinky, it might be sexual, and it might be a shapeshifter. So I didn't realize that at the time either. I was ignorant and thought there was just one sexual human being. But now I've learned, wow, if my partner is a sexual and I'm a sensual, we might not be actually communicating when it comes to the bedroom because we're operating from 2 different blueprints and don't even realize it. So back to your original question, the difference for me is sexual is the thing we have in common. But if I go to the blueprints, sexuality, they love genitalia, they love nakedness, they love that act of penetration. Sensuality, they like to have the senses activated. I want to smell this peppermint that I did before I came on this call. I want to have the candle that is lit in front of me. I want to have the environment all very soft and sensual. I want to be wearing something that's going to make me feel sensual. So those are the two differences kind of between the sexual and the sensual blueprint. And so now in my mind, I kind of see them that way.
Yeah, so it's really a big difference. We just tend to confuse them, I guess, or at least on my side. But I think I'm not alone with that. So that's what I actually wanted to ask you these questions, because sometimes they don't allow us to say, oh yeah, I'm sensual, or but is in reality it has not much relation with sexuality. As you say, it's all our senses, and how important it is to have them awake,
Yeah.
and
So if you want to have me be more pleasurable with you, then I want to have the pleasure of my sensuality being activated and turned on versus wham bam, thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, of course.
But to me, that's kind of the difference between the two. And so again, we get into judgment. And
Yes.
there should be no judgment. If you are we both here for the same outcome? Do we both want to please? Do we want this to last a long time? Or do we only have like 15 minutes and we just want to get together and have some pleasure? So that's to me the biggest thing too, is being able to talk about it. That's when you mentioned taboo, I'm like, I think just talking about everything is kind of taboo. And that might just be a me thing. It might be a regional thing. It might be a generational thing. But that doesn't make any excuse. It is a fact.
Yeah, that's true.
The discomfort of the authentic, open conversation because there's too much judgment and fear.
Yeah. And you think because of that is that we tend to disconnect to that side of ourselves as a woman?
Well, that would definitely contribute to one side. And for me, I know the other thing is I just assumed it was always my fault, or I was the one that was whatever, if something wasn't working, it was all because of me. So that was my self-talk.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just
shame,
yeah,
guilt.
guilt. It's just so much stuff, and it's from the society, it's from our religion, it's from our caregivers, it's from, I mean, in general, unfortunately, we have been programmed with all these condition and taboo that it really block us to have that energy flowing through us, and that's what really bring us more to who we really are. And I do believe that if we will have that flow within us, we will give us that permission, we will be more like different. We will be able to be more ourselves and to be more authentic instead of hiding because of that judgment.
Yeah, I think a lot of women think they know themselves. I thought I knew myself, yet going down that rabbit hole of exploring the shadow, exploring the taboo, exploring what I didn't know so that I could actually make an informed decision. How can I know what's authentic for me if I've not had any experiences to know what's right for me? Well, you're just basing your opinion on 2 pages rather than the 100 pages available. That's a really limited view.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And I think too often, because of society, because of family, because of religion, because of all of those external pressures and boxes, too many women don't get to know who they authentically are. They just kind of go forward what's ever in front of them.
Yeah. And then we don't get to explore or to discover what is really out there. Right? How has been your experience since you then took the coaching for the blueprints? How has been your evolution? from
Okay.
that.
I want to go back to the comment I had in the beginning that I didn't get to make, because it also ties with fear and pleasure. And it's more of a simple everyday example to give another analogy to what we're talking about. And that is going barefoot anywhere, anytime. Most people, and I shouldn't say most people, a number of people I know would not feel safe to take their shoes off and walk barefoot.
I've noticed that.
And to me, there is no greater pleasure than to have my feet barefoot on the earth in different types of environments, in different settings, different ways for my feet to actually be connected to the earth. I don't hold fear on that. I don't think I'm being risky or unsafe. So again, it's just interesting that fear and how fear affects our life.
Yeah. Yeah, because we behave according to it.
Yeah, which is a way of contracting and constricting. So then you're not open to pleasure, to receive. To have pleasure, your heart has to be open. Your vessel has to be ready to receive the pleasure. If you are contracted or bending over or constricted, the pleasure may be right in front of you, but you're not open to allow it in.
Yes. So before your recommendation of being barefoot, what's something else we can do to really feel and open up to that pleasure?
Oh, this is where I believe everybody has to find their own way. And that's the one thing that has been challenging to me for different programs. There's a plethora of programs now, different pathways for people to jump on, to find their freedom, to find their pleasure. And what I love the best is to meet with somebody and talk to them, to get to know them, to figure out what might be the right pathway for this person in particular. You know, rather than saying, okay, I'm Rhonda Rabbitt and I've discovered here's the pathway, come join me. I've got the idea, like for me, it's body, heart, mind, and spirit. You got to do the whole person, you got to do all four components. Yet I'm not going to just pick one piece, because then that wouldn't be whole. Yet to answer your question, what's one thing you can do? I would say for me, it's really about that feeling piece inside. And here's where breath work, I think, is a real good pathway to connect inside, to awaken. Somehow you have to tap into your feelings inside. And breath work is one way. There's womb healing programs. We have some sisters who do some wonderful work with womb healing, but that's the whole jade egg and having practices of connecting internally as a woman with feeling yourself inside without having it just be toys for pleasure or a male presence. Like there's that you, again, it's not even necessarily about pleasure initially as much as it is about self-discovery. It's making a relationship with yourself at a very intimate level. Breath work can be very intimate, and actually sensing where it goes. Fascial maneuvers for me also has been another pathway to get to know myself intimately. And it's really becoming more curious about your own body vessel. All of it, every single inch of it, internally and externally. You should not be ashamed to have a relationship with any part of your physical being, I don't believe. And that is like so contrary to who I used to be. I couldn't even say the word fart.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, I thought if something was gross, if something I had deemed was off limits, if something was inappropriate, oh my goodness, false boundaries.
Yeah. Hmm. That really makes me reflect why. So besides what we were talking, the taboo or the what was the other thing that we said? Well, whatever society, religion they said is that block also of not accepting our bodies or not loving our bodies that really probably not allow us to be able to be that open to that pleasure that is out there.
I never
Because
loved my body. That was, yeah, my body was not something to be loved. It was just this thing that got me around from day to day. And I would take it to the gym to make sure that it was strong. Like I tried to control my body to get the work done. It was not love my body.
yeah, yeah, I, yeah, for me, it happens the same. It was just like, yeah, like the avatar. And not even that, right? We didn't even know that word by then. That's the truth.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's that importance and that to start recognizing this vessel that we are in this human experience and start taking care of it at any level, as you said. It's physically, mentally, energetically, and sexually as well, like in every aspect. So we can really connect to our bodies. As you said, like you said before, we are whole. So we need to put all those pieces together. Otherwise, we're missing something, even if we don't know it. And that's a bad thing, that we don't know it. Or I didn't know it until a few years back.
Yeah. We don't know what we don't know. Listening to you, I just pictured like the gift we have been given is this temple body vessel. I love that, the vessel. And okay, so here I'm giving you this vessel for your lifetime. However you take care of it, whatever you do with it is how your life will become. So like if you're given that, like, oh my goodness, this gift, okay, I'm going to take care of this because this is precious. This is a rare gift that I've been given. Versus I was looking at it as like, okay, what pair of jeans do I want to pull out of the closet and put on today? Okay, here it is. I'm just stepping in. Okay, here I go. I as long as it doesn't get a flat tire, I'm okay.
But
Gets me
just
from
base it on
point A
that.
to point B.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh,
I
I'm really I'm sick, or I'm feeling tired, or oh, I'm worn out. Okay, you know what? Here, let's just put some Quaaludes, some caffeine. Let's put something in here. I probably shouldn't use that word. That's probably inappropriate. I was not serious when I said Quaaludes, but I mean,
it's
you know,
okay.
like put some caffeine in you to don't let the body recuperate. Don't let the body rest, even though that's exactly what it needs. That's that love. It needs love and rest. And now caffeine's not enough. We got to get the 5 times the dose of caffeine. It's like we've gotten way extreme.
Yeah.
Listen
Yeah.
to the body. The body is the wise vessel. It's like Aladdin's lamp.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shine it and keep it pretty. It's going to bring you magical gifts.
I love that. Yeah, because the thing what happened is that disconnection with it, and how we actually then we get sick or we get disease or something, and it's most of the time because we ignore it. We don't want to listen to it. And at one point when we get into big trouble with our bodies because it's already like screaming at us because we didn't want to listen.
Well, I don't have to listen to it. The doctors didn't tell me I needed to listen to it. I just go to the doctor like I don't because that's the other thing. And the doctors, they're not listening to your body. They're just reacting to their habits for the most. I'm generalizing. So
Yeah.
should watch my words more because this is being recorded. My apologies. I say words matter, and I'm making a poor use example of myself with that right now. When you get passionate, it's easy to forget your own priorities. That's part of the mastery. I'm working on mastery yet because I get very passionate, and this is part of the mastery is staying passionate but staying within my lane.
Thank you. Mm. I really like this phrase that you had when you were talking about our body as the vessel, and you said, this is how your life will become. And that's true because, I mean, we're in midlife. So if we don't take care of this vessel, if we don't continue.
Oh, it's already, don't you feel already? It's like, oh man, that's what I've told my daughters now is like, okay, I remember hearing that I should probably like take more care with what I put on my skin. And I thought, I'm just going to buy this cheap stuff. I'm just going to put, I don't need to wash my face every night, and it's like, good hygiene matters.
Yeah.
Hydration is the one thing that I would say we never talked about. That's the big change. And hydration, not just drinking water, but mineralized water. People drink a lot of water, but it's not quality water, so they're not actually getting what they need, and they might be actually doing a disservice to their own body, thinking they're on the right path.
Okay. Yeah, it's all these habits that we can implement in our lives to really then nurture our body at any level, to be as functional and as healthy as possible for the longest period we can.
Yeah. So you know what I just realized in you making that statement? So pleasure for me initially was the pleasure of actually just being there for myself. So I remember in the sisterhood when we first came together and not being very happy with my body, being frustrated that I couldn't move my body, and like all these things that I wanted in my body that was not currently available. Yet, what I found pleasure in was being curious now about my body, wanting to take care of my body, experimenting with clothes that made me feel differently. So the pleasure was like actually just for the first time showing up to be with me for the pleasure of being with me. I never had that before. Like the pleasure of being with me.
With you. And what is something or many things that you had to work on it to get to that point of having the pleasure of? I mean, I know, but then we will be able to talk about it for hours. But I mean, if you can kind of pinpoint, like, what are the things that you had to work on it to actually have the pleasure to be with yourself?
Yeah, as I said, that could be a whole year's podcast there.
Yeah, I bet.
So again, to keep it categorized, so first I had to go into my body.
Okay.
I had to develop a relationship with my body. What was your original question, though? What did I have to get over?
Yeah, like to work on. What did you work on it, like to really get to that place of feeling pleasure of being with yourself?
Yeah. So for me, I had to develop a relationship with each part of myself. So I had to develop a relationship with my physical body externally, my physical body internally, my health, my diet, my environment, all of that physical kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I had to, my mind. I have an overactive mind. I have a very quick mind, and I have come to really appreciate the gift of my mind, but that one has taken me quite a while. And what I would say about all of these is I made my first connection to my body, to my mind, to my heart, and my spirit. But then I had to go back again. It's that spiral, and I had to go deeper. It's like I had to get to the first layer, just making that connection, right? So I've got an awareness now. Okay, I'm aware of you now. Great. Okay. Then I have to, okay, you know what, body? I'm going to allow you into this. I'm going to allow you into this. And then I accept it. Oh, yes, I accept and I receive, right? And then now to the mastery is now to amplify it. So that spiral, you have to go like 4 different times for me to truly get to the depth, because that's where I want to go. That rabbit hole goes deep, and I am here on this earth to go as deep as the rabbit hole goes. So yeah, so the body, the heart, and then the heart is the emotions, right? So I thought that was one of my strengths, and I now know it really is. However, originally my emotions were more in control of me. And I had to do, the healing of awareness about where I was trapped, the awareness of the codependency, and the awareness of the pain. The fact that I could not identify anger. I couldn't imagine what anger really felt like, because all I could imagine was sadness. So obviously there was something there in my emotional blockage, right? Yeah. So going through all the emotional pieces then, and now I recognize, like, I have a gift of being very emotionally connected, both in my own being as well as with others.
I love that gift. Yeah. Oh, wow.
And this is where I feel my mastery is, like, pleasure is now bliss and love. And I feel if I can bring more love into the world, if I can help others release into their own pleasurable love as they authentically are, then we bring more love to the planet. And glory, hallelujah.
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah, that's what we're here for. That love. We are love, all of us.
What everybody seeks and everybody deserves. And at the core, it's what everybody really is. We've just lost our way.
Ah, yeah, definitely we've been lost. And that's why we are here doing the work, to come back to that remembrance. Oh my
Lost,
God.
now we're found. Listen to the sound. Love is the way. Harmony and play. Ooh.
I'm beautiful. Oh my God. Ah.
Oh, I feel a real tingle right here at the base of my throat. A pleasure.
Oh my God, this is so beautiful. I'm so enjoying it. I'm really pleasuring this moment with you right now. Definitely. Why do you think that when we go through life transitions, and more in midlife, right? I mean, it could be an empty nester, you are one. It could be the divorce, we've both been there. It could be the change of a job or starting entrepreneurship. It could be moving to a different city or a different country. There could be many, also the loss of a dear one. How do you think that we can navigate these transitions, and at the same time don't lose that pleasure, that sensuality, that connection within ourselves?
Mm. Well, I think the way you describe that, there's two ways. There's people who have that connection and then go through that type of experience, or people like me who lacked the connection, went through that experience and found the connection.
Mm.
So for me, I was disconnected from my own being. And because of those life change experiences, I had to look at myself, or I chose to look at myself because of those experiences. And I realized looking back, like there were many points in my life journey where I feel I had opportunities. And I could say, some people could say, oh, you could have done it there, you could have done it there, you could have done it there. Yet I'm a firm believer that everything happens the way it's supposed to. And I've always said I'm a late bloomer. And I believe that each of those past experiences was just enough information to keep me moving forward into my ultimate destination.
Mm. Yeah,
Mm-hmm. So
definitely.
I don't believe anything in my life has been a misstep, has been an error. I believe it's all been to lead me to this point in time. Would I have liked
Yeah.
it a little bit differently? Well, yeah, maybe, but this is the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Yeah.
find pleasure in what is.
Mm. Oh, yeah.
That's mean I've
There's
had
so
to
much.
forgive myself for some of those past things because I wouldn't be able to find the pleasure of today if I didn't find forgiveness for myself.
Yeah. And that acceptance also, as you said, of what is. Because, like, well, we do know life is a journey and it's ups and downs the whole time. So it's really about, yeah, every transition that we're going, like, at least that the way we do it is every transition it's a transformation for us.
Mhm.
Is that is going back to that cocooning and then to let that butterfly, you know, then emerge from that cocoon. and and I can relate to what you said, is like you choose to look at yourself because of that, because that's
Mhm.
also what happened to me after my second separation, that then it comes to a divorce. uh I really like, I was kind of forced, if I can put it, to look at myself, because I was like, if this is my second divorce, like the common denominator there is myself. So it's like I need to look at myself. I need to go like within, and then from there really is how I connect back to me, to my body, and how I truly start loving myself. Because I used to say I love myself, but that was a lie. That was a lie.
So tell me more about that. What was the lie or what?
Uh,
So you did think you loved yourself, or you told
yeah,
yourself that you did?
yeah. I mean, I was taking care of myself, yes, but more of at a, because I was already like exercising. I was already changing my habits. But I guess it's also that process. I can go even further to that when I really was like, yeah, not really loving myself. So I guess actually it's a process to love myself. It's
Mm-hmm.
just that when that separation came and I was like, okay, so what is in here? What is in me that I need to work on? Right? Because then also I was like, I love this person, even though we're divorcing. We love each other so much. But I like, how then can I really, it was not really putting attention on how to love myself. It was more like, how can I take care of myself now that I have all this time for me? And then more because it was during COVID. So for me, really, the pandemic was a blessing, because I didn't have to say no to any invitations or anything, because I took the time to go within. And the more I was taking care of myself at a deeper level, again, energetically, mentally, physically, I went through all the emotions that I needed to go through, because I was still like grieving the passing of my father, grieving then this relationship, grieving some of the breakup of one of my best friends. So it was all these turmoil happening at the same time, that I was like, I need to take care of myself. And that's really deepening on that, when I realized, oh yeah, like I have been taking care of myself so much, and I know myself to the core, to my shadow, to my light, that I really love myself. And yeah, actually, I think that's what it is. It was probably more to the surface, the fact that I was saying, I love myself, yeah, but I was still ignoring that part, the shadow. Yeah. And once I brought it to the surface and I accepted it and I love it, is when I said, yeah, now I know that I love myself.
Okay. So for me, I was going to say, I feel my whole life I have been studying myself. I've always been curious about human development. My whole education, that's what it was focused on. And so I have been studying that, teaching that, analyzing myself in journals all the time. Yet for me, it was all in the mind. And I was my worst critic. So I was basically tearing myself apart all the time. And here's where, again, I believe everything happens for a reason. So in moving here, it ended up that my husband was not able to be with me initially. And that was like my first awakening of, oh, shoot. I don't know who I am without my husband and the kids. I don't know how to function without like thinking of their needs in my actions. And so that was the awakening initially. And then again, going back to the mind, realizing I needed to get curious about myself beyond the mind, because my mind was just stuck on this spiral of self-criticism, self-analysis, self-judgment. And so that was not helping me. I couldn't get off that. And so that's when like, oh, going into the body is like, whoa, that was a whole nother level. And that was like the opening for me to actually get in touch with me, which then also forced me to see shadows and awaken my curiosity. And then, yeah. So to the other thing I wanted to say too, that you mentioned, is I so loved my husband and felt that we really were soulmates. And I still believe that. And yet I recognize that we were so deeply codependent. There's no way I could ever do any of this self-work in the same relationship. I could not, I just, there's no way I could imagine that. And I am so in awe of women who do this work while in relationship. I just really want to give kudos and a huge shout out to women who are struggling in their relationship. I don't know how many women I've seen on the brink of divorce, yet then they discover the erotic blueprints, and both the spouses somehow end up transformed, even though it was just the woman who was doing the work initially and chose to just stick with her partner. And eventually things shifted and changed for both of them. Wow. That's a strong woman.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for mentioning that. Yeah, I'm also in awe for that one, for those women who can actually do that. And I don't know, at the same time, is if we would have been able to do it when we were partners, probably, right? But it was not our case. Like each journey is different. Again, if we come back to that, I would like you to talk a bit, to talk about more about, because you said, I don't know, you didn't know how to function without your husband and without your children around. Because I know there's a lot of women that this has happened to them. What
They
is
say
some?
don't lose yourself once you have a marriage and kids. Yeah, that's I don't know how you don't. But that's because I was so codependent, like their needs, their happiness, their joy. But now in hindsight, I realize, oh, that was not real because I was not then present. And it's like you got to take care of yourself. If mama ain't happy, nobody's happy. But that's not the right phrase. It's if mama's not healthy, nobody's healthy.
Yeah, we go to the prioritizing the self. It really has to be that prioritizing the self.
And
So
that's
that,
then the model and then the lesson to everybody else to see, wow, okay, I'm worthy to take care of myself too. Look at mom. She's taking care of herself even. Yeah.
oh yes, yeah, being the example, not
Yeah.
by words that, but by actions,
Yes.
right?
Mhm.
Yeah. Hmm. Ah. Oh wow.
Mm. One of the gifts I will say, I don't know where this came up, but I think one of the things I'm most proud of is I have no fear. And somebody's going to challenge me on that. Yet I just really have come to appreciate again reflecting on yourselves and the strengths that you bring. I guess that's something that I realized in this conversation. That is a strength that I have brought out
Mm.
of myself.
Wow. We can be fearful about many things.
Mhm.
So in this, how are you putting it that you have no fear? Like, can you explain more about that?
Well, for it starts off with just like going places. I think of how even before my solo journey, um, my husband and I, we took different trips with the kids where people would be like, "That's crazy! Like, why are you doing? Aren't you afraid of that? Like, why would you do that?" And um, I didn't think twice about it. It was just something that I felt passionate about. So one
Yeah.
example is we drove from Wisconsin in our minivan all the way to central Mexico with the kids when they were little. And there were, people were worried about, crossing the border and the danger of all of that. And yeah, didn't feel any of that. Um, and the moving here without knowing anything about the geography, the community, the anything. I knew nothing about Pennsylvania. And yet I chose to leave my hometown, my roots, everything to come here to start this new career here.
Yeah.
And yeah, so no fear in that. But then
Uh-huh.
the other piece is going into the shadow. So places of taboo, places where I held judgment, right? Like I
Yeah.
was the one that said, this is acceptable, this is not. And then I would pause and I'd ask myself, well, how do you know?
Oh, yeah. Who said
Uh,
so?
yeah. And that's when it's like, dude, I don't know, somebody told me that. Okay, but what do you believe, Rhonda? What do you feel? Well, I don't know. Well, then how can you make that statement? You got to go figure it out for yourself.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's so true. Because we limit ourselves to too many things just because somebody said,
Yeah.
and that's about it. And how we limit ourselves, if we come back to that pleasure of pleasuring ourselves or just doing something out of the box, finding that magic out there, how we limit ourselves because somebody said so and we just wanted to follow, or because we are fearful,
Mhm.
or or because of the taboo, we go again, we getting
Yeah.
back to that. Oh,
Go back
wow.
to, I remember telling my kids is I want you to meet your fear and beat it, is what I used to say. And I think back to, I was just having a conversation with my daughters about my fear of water. And they were kind of surprised by that. And I said, I love water. I have a great respect for the ocean. And I'm not exactly sure when this fear came. It hasn't stopped me from going into the water.
Mhm.
I go back to when were you on that trip in Costa Rica where there was that tree by the waterfall with a rope?
Yeah, yeah, I was there. I
And
witnessed
I
you.
and I jumped off of it, right? Like I did that because I saw it as a challenge. Like,
Yeah.
okay, can you handle this? And it's like,
Mm,
okay, I can do this, right? So I did it,
yeah.
meet my fear, and to
Yeah.
make peace with my fear.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah. And that's the thing is coming back to that piece. Because if I come back to the pleasure of how my perception of it was, of it was only sexually, and for me, sexual sex was a taboo, then you don't get to really experience it, or you don't really get to
Mm.
uh yeah, because of that fear. So it's really about like facing it and saying, yeah, what's the worst that it can happen here? But I guess going back to if we are really connected to our bodies, then it's like, yeah, I can feel this fear, but it's a fear of curiosity. It's not a fear of freezing me out, you
More of
know?
anticipation, excitement, it sounds like.
Yeah, exactly. So
Hmm.
it's really to get to know what's really that sensation that we have, so we can get to know, is it really, again, fear or pleasure, or what else is going on, and
Mm.
based on that be able to act.
Being able to identify what the emotion is. So that was,
Yeah.
again, talking about that, I had to download like the emotional wheels. I had to download an app. I had to become more adept at expanding vocabulary. We basically know anger, fear, sadness. Like that's like we're so limited in the words we can identify as emotions. And then also then being able to articulate, make a connection to what my body is sensing, what my
Mm-hmm.
body's feeling, and what I want to label as that emotion. Right. So it's the
Mm-hmm.
vocabulary, but then it's also the feeling sense of the emotion.
Yeah.
And when I'm sorry, I
Go,
see
go,
you
go,
going
go.
on, but I was to say, I feel like I've done a disservice in this talk in one regard because you mentioned the pleasure and sex again. And I'm feeling like, yeah, so that should be perhaps a follow-up talk where that's explicitly what we talk about is just.
No, here is how it flows. And I do believe so far that this conversation has been really rich, because, and I can actually, yeah, I think this is going to be very valuable. So, no, there's no deviation. We have spoken whatever it has been needed to be said.
Okay. Well,
And
I would say
yeah,
if I could say one thing about pleasure related to sex,
yeah.
it is again, I think we have in general, I'm generalizing, a limited view about what pleasure can be sexually. And I believe there's also this kind of like give and take dynamic expectation. Like, okay, well, if I do this for you, are you going to do this for me? It's kind of like a give and take. And
Mm,
what I've come to realize is if you are authentically with somebody in safe, sacred space for sexual experiences together, that you lose that. It's like you dissipate into one and it's all pleasure.
mm,
It's not him or her, it's just all pleasure. And that whole idea of having endless encounters, evenings that last forever, that's possible then because there's no boundaries anymore. But the minute it just becomes pleasure for like, okay, I'm going to pleasure you now, then you pleasure me, that kind of thing, then, well, now, yeah, you've put limits on there. So now you've got boundaries, and this is going to be a limited experience.
Yeah, it feels, yeah, I think it kind of like feels, yeah, as you said, if you put a limit, it really, yeah, it loses that uniqueness of that essence that it can actually flow from each of the individuals to come through.
Yeah. It's more of a performance now than authentic.
That's, yeah, performance. So no. I guess at this point we don't want performance anymore. Oh, I would like you to share some of the practical steps or practices that women can actually incorporate into their daily life to reconnect with pleasure and with their sensuality.
Okay. Well, the first thing I would do is I'd have everybody go to that erotic blueprint quiz. Maybe I can share that with you to put
Sure,
on your.
I can put it in the show notes. Yeah, no problem.
Yeah. Because for me, that was again, that was one of those game changer moments where I stumbled across the quiz online, and when I got the results, and not they have two versions now. You got to do the full report to get the real good stuff. But when I read that, it was like it connected so many dots for me that I was kind of like, oh, this is like a huge piece that's been missing in my understanding. And I had no idea. I would have never gone looking for sexuality as part of the answer for me, the part that was missing. But there it was, right there for me.
Okay.
And the reason I say to start there is because, again, I believe that, yes, women in general are sensual biased in what we appreciate, what we enjoy. Yet, now knowing that there's 5 different blueprint types, there may be something more pleasurable for you than what I would suggest. So, like if you're a kinky person, you might say, oh, that's all fine, but you know what I would really enjoy, right? It could be something different. Just as a general thing, I would say to find more pleasure, again, it begins by developing a relationship with yourself. So however you decide to do that, for me, one of the things that I chose was when I wake up in the morning. I've gone through different phases with this, but the thread of them all is the same. The first thing I do when I wake up is I love myself. And that has, again, taken different forms, different phases. And the current one that I'm in is I wake up, not by alarm, but I wake up early and I look at the clock and I smile and I was like, oh, 4 o'clock. I love the number 4. It's such a magical number for me. And then I roll over and I love the feeling of my sheets. I love my body. I just give like appreciation for that moment. And the fact that I'm rolling over to go back to sleep because I'm not ready to get up yet.
I call that a simple pleasure.
Yes.
Simple pleasure, like, yeah, I can sleep more and I'm here so cozy. It's just, oh.
Yeah, and so it's really it's about that connection with the self in the moment. It's not just rolling, like looking at the clock, oh, 4 o'clock, I can roll over and go to sleep. No, see, that was just an action. There was no love in that. So it's really being intentional to love what you're feeling, love what you're thinking, love what you're doing, loving it all. Love what you're choosing.
Yes. And knowing that there's no right or wrong.
Yeah.
Because, yes. I remember when I took the erotic blueprint program with you, that you showed me some practices, how to feel those actually the putting up, feeling the senses. Give a couple of examples, for the audience to see, okay, how can I, like wake up that simple pleasures or that sensuality within me? If you can just explain it with words for our audience, yeah, that would be great.
Okay, because they can only hear my voice right now. So wherever you are, listener, I'm going to ask you to close your eyes just for this moment. And I'm going to ask you close your eyes so you can feel inside your body. I just recognized I was leaning forward, so I'm settling into my chair, feeling my sitting bones, relaxing my shoulders, and I can feel my feet on the floor. So I can just totally surrender right here because I'm being held right now. Well, there's something really precious about feeling held. I don't have to do anything because I'm held. And then I take my middle finger of my right hand, I put it between my two eyebrows, just lightly, ever so lightly touching there, almost like teasing, tickling there, making an energetic connection there. I smile as I glide it lightly up to the center of my forehead, over above my eyebrow, down to my temple, where it does a little circle. Oh, sound is pleasurable. I then continue to follow my jawbone, opening and closing my mouth. We're often afraid to let sound out. That's a big no-no. At the chin, I do a couple circles there as I wind my finger up to my lips. I glide my finger over my lip, touch my tongue, and then glide that wet finger on my lip. And to close it, take that fingertip to your left hand, the palm. Do 3 circles in the center palm. I feel my feet tingling right now. That fingertip down to the wrist. Another circle right there. Oh, do you feel that? I'm going to put it all at my arm now. Just, bliss. Put your arms all over. Love yourself and love yourself some more.
I love you. We love you. Yes. Thank you. Thank you for that share. It's so.
It was definitely my
so
pleasure.
Simple.
Definitely my pleasure.
Yes. And it's so simple. I mean, we were not even there, 2-3 minutes? And it just makes a difference. It's just.
Yeah. And you can do that on your own at any moment ever, any day. So the other thing I would invite people to is there's this wonderful app, and it's through the Gene Keys that I was turned on to it. It's called Triple Flame. And what I love about it is I can set my phone for every 3rd hour of the day for a 3-minute reconnection with myself. This is what I started with anyway. And they can just have music playing at that 3 minutes with you. You have to go to the app because there's so many different ways you can set it up, different times, different length. But to me, it's a great way to make sure that you tap in to connect with yourself.
Oh, I love this. Yeah. Yeah, we can share this one also in the show notes, definitely.
And the triple flame, I love that because I think of twin flame. I think of so much magic with the triple flame.
Nice.
Oh, you got me all dreamy now.
Oh, so pleasurable to be here today. Thank you so much, Rhonda, for sharing your wisdom, your journey. your being.
Thank you. This was such a pleasurable way to end my evening. It's like, oh, thank you. So luxurious and sweet.
Yes. And would you like to share with our audience, where can they find you?
Thank you. RhondaRabbitt.com. And Rhonda is RHONDA RABBITT.com, because I am not the bunny, but it does sound the same. And email, I can be found at connect@rhondarabbitt.com. But I'm also on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. But Instagram is kind of my primary social media outlet right now.
Okay, yeah, we'll share that handle as well. Yes. Okay. And to close our call, I just want to ask you something, which is a simple pleasure that you enjoy?
Music. And I can find when I go too often with too long without music, I'm starting to feel flat. What's going on here? And it's like, I have not had music playing. So music is a gift on so many levels. But for me, the pleasure of turning on music and allowing my body to come back alive, allowing my voice perhaps to awaken, it just brings magic.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you again.
My pleasure.
My pleasure. Much love.
Love you.
Love you too. Thank you for tuning into Midlife Butterfly. If this episode lit a spark in you, hit that subscribe or follow button on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you love to listen, so you'll never miss the magic. If you're feeling generous, drop a review on Apple Podcasts. It helps this empowering content reach more souls ready to transform their lives. And don't forget to take a photo of you while listening and share it on your socials. You can tag me at KenAsYou so I can celebrate you and your expansion. Until next time, keep spreading those wings and living in joy, growth, and pleasure.